Welcome to the deep dive. So take a moment and just think about this clean energy revolution that's happening really all around us. You see
Mm.
the electric vehicles, gliding down the streets, those huge wind turbines spinning, solar panels everywhere.
Pretty amazing to see.
It really is. It's this huge, ambitious global shift. But have you ever actually stopped to wonder what hidden elements are, well, really powering it all? What's actually in those things?
That's such a critical question because, this whole transition to decarbonization, it isn't just about the shiny tech we see at the end.
Right.
It's a massive strategic challenge. And it really comes down to getting access to some very specific, sometimes pretty rare materials.
Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Energy, they put out this big critical materials assessment back in 2023.
I remember that one.
Yeah, and it's really hammered this home. They pointed to stuff like lithium, cobalt, neodymium, gallium, silicon carbide,
Yeah.
saying these are absolutely essential. Like the whole system depends on them for these clean energy technologies.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Because the challenge isn't just, oh, where do we find this stuff? The
Exactly.
DOE report, it really highlights that our clean energy goals are kind of hitting a wall because of, well, a whole tangle of things. Supply chain problems,
Big ones.
tricky international relationships, even just how efficiently we can get these materials out of the ground or process them. These are serious hurdles we really have to figure out.
Precisely. And, the key to getting over these hurdles, it lies in what some people are calling material intelligence.
Material intelligence.
Yeah, it basically means we need these really advanced cutting-edge technologies that can, well, essentially see inside the materials themselves.
Okay.
So our deep dive today, it's really all about unpacking how these advanced tools are helping us discover and, crucially, secure the delivery of these really strategic materials.
Right.
We're talking about tech, like micro-X-ray fluorescence, spectroscopy, MicroXRF for short,
MicroXRF.
and it's proving to be a real game changer in this whole area.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for, for all of us? Our mission today is to kind of journey into this unseen world, to understand how this like super precise mapping technology is literally paving the way for our clean energy future.
Yeah.
How it reveals these tiny, tiny details, micron scale details that make all the difference. Let's get into it.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So if we dive a bit deeper into these critical materials, the DOE report, it listed, I think, 23 materials as critical or near critical, looking ahead to 2035.
23, wow.
Yeah. And we're talking about specific rare earth elements, things like dysprosium and terbium, maybe names you haven't heard much.
Not exactly household names, no.
Right. But absolutely vital. And then you've got the crucial battery metals, lithium, cobalt, of course, and advanced semiconductors like gallium and silicon carbide.
And their role, it's just fundamental, isn't it? These aren't just optional extras.
Well, at all.
They're the actual backbone. The magnets and EV motors, those massive wind turbines, they
No.
need these.
Yep. The powerful ones do.
The cathodes in the lithium-ion batteries, they power everything now, from your phone to your car.
Right.
And those specialized wafers in next-gen power electronics, it feels like without these specific materials, this clean energy future just doesn't happen.
You're absolutely right. They're completely indispensable. And the challenge of getting them, like you said, has got so many layers. The supply chain, geopolitics, production efficiency.
Yeah.
It all demands a totally new approach. And that's exactly why we need these analytical tools that are high throughput, meaning fast, high precision, and crucially, non-destructive.
Non-destructive, that seems key.
It is. We just can't afford to waste material or time or energy analyzing things the old way.
And that brings us right back to MicroXRF, doesn't it? It sounds like it's almost perfectly designed for these challenges.
It really is well suited.
So can you walk us through what MicroXRF actually is and, how does it get that incredible level of detail that other methods maybe miss?
Absolutely. So imagine you've baked this really complex cake, right? And you want to know exactly what ingredients are in every tiny part of it, but you absolutely cannot cut the cake open or mash it up.
Okay, tricky.
Right. Micro-X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, or MicroXRF, it's basically a technique that lets us do something similar for materials. It works by shooting a tiny, really focused X-ray beam onto your sample. When that beam hits the atoms in the sample, each element, like iron or lithium or neodymium, it gives off its own unique X-ray signal. It's almost like an elemental fingerprint.
So it's reading the fingerprint of each element right there on the spot.
Exactly. And the real magic is the precision. We're talking incredibly high spatial resolution. Spot sizes down to 5 micrometers.
5 micrometers, that's tiny.
It is. To give you a sense, that's thinner than a single strand of spider silk.
Wow.
And that lets scientists see the elemental makeup of, say, tiny individual mineral grains within a rock sample, or even really subtle variations inside a battery component.
Okay, that level of detail is amazing. So how does that really stack up against what scientists used before? What makes it so much, well, better than the traditional ways?
Yeah, that's where it really, really shines. Think about the old school lab methods. A lot of them, like certain chemical digestion
Right, you
techniques,
dissolve it in an acid or something.
exactly, you literally have to destroy the sample to analyze it.
Yeah.
Or you might have something like bulk XRF, which is useful, but it might only give you an average composition for the whole chunk.
Like guessing the cake ingredients by just blending the whole thing together?
Perfect analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
MicroXRF, though, is completely non-destructive. You get your sample back exactly as it was.
Okay.
And, maybe even more importantly, it gives you spatially resolved elemental imaging. It creates a map,
A map.
a literal map showing where each element is. This means it can spot these tiny micron scale differences, heterogeneities we call them, or specific patterns like zoning in minerals, that the conventional methods would just completely average out and miss.
So you're not just seeing the forest, you're seeing every single tree, and you know exactly what kind of tree it is and where it is.
That's a great way to put it.
Yes. And what's the sort of practical payoff for that? Like if you're exploring for minerals or running a mine?
Oh, huge advantages.
Yeah.
For mineral exploration and mining, it offers massive benefits in speed, cost effectiveness, and just sheer versatility.
How so?
Well, because it doesn't need complex sample prep like vacuum systems or putting conductive coatings on things.
Ah, simpler.
Much simpler. It's more accessible, more versatile for analyzing samples directly, maybe even right there at the mine site in some cases. It kind of perfectly bridges the gap between, say, super high-res electron microscopy, which looks at tiny spots, and those bulk assays that just give you an average.
Right.
It lets you scan large areas relatively quickly, but still with really high elemental sensitivity.
Mm.
It helps answer that key question. Where exactly are the valuable bits concentrated?
Okay, so it directs you much more efficiently. So talking about pushing this tech, the Atlas MicroXRF system, that sounds like a prime example of this precision in action.
It absolutely is. The Atlas system, it really pushes the boundaries. We're talking ultra-high spatial resolution, consistently less than 10 micrometers.
Still incredibly small.
Definitely. And it has that broad elemental coverage we mentioned, from carbon all the way up to uranium on the periodic table.
So basically everything.
Pretty much any element you're likely to find in these materials. It gives scientists this really complete picture of a sample's makeup, no matter how complex it is.
And where are we seeing this Atlas system making the biggest waves right now? What are the key applications?
Oh, it's being used across a really wide range of these critical material categories. For instance, rare earth magnets. It's mapping elements like neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, terbium. Also things like gallium and iron that affect performance.
Okay. Makes sense for motors and turbines.
Exactly. Then for battery components, it's analyzing lithium, which is tricky for some techniques. Cobalt, nickel, manganese, even the structure of graphite in anodes, helping to optimize performance, lifespan, safety.
Crucial for EVs.
Absolutely. In semiconductors, it's vital for developing and checking the quality of materials like silicon carbide and gallium nitride. These are key for more efficient power electronics.
Right, the things that manage the power flow.
Precisely. And maybe one of the most exciting areas is analyzing recycled and secondary sources.
Ah, the circular economy angle.
Exactly. Things like e-waste, old electronics, mine tailings, the leftover stuff from mining, even industrial slag.
Yeah.
Atlas helps figure out what valuable elements are in there and how to potentially extract them, turning waste into a resource.
That's huge. Can you give us a really concrete example? You mentioned monazite earlier, that rare earth mineral.
Yes, monazite is a perfect case study. It's a key source for neodymium and praseodymium, those elements we need for the strong magnets in EVs and wind turbines. With monazite, using high-resolution micro-XRF imaging from something like the Atlas, you can actually see the elemental zoning within a single mineral grain.
Zoning, like layers.
Kind of like layers or distinct regions where specific elements are more concentrated than others. Maybe more neodymium here, more cerium over there.
Okay.
Now, this isn't just scientifically interesting, though it is. It's incredibly valuable practical information. It tells geologists, okay, This type of zoning means it formed under these conditions, which helps find more deposits. Or it tells engineers we need to process the ore this way to efficiently separate the valuable elements based on how they're distributed.
So it makes the whole process smarter, more targeted from exploration right through to processing?
Exactly. Better resource recovery, less waste, lower costs. It makes every step more intelligent.
What's also really striking is how directly this technology, like the Atlas MicroXRF, seems to line up with the Department of Energy's big strategic goals for critical materials. It feels like it's a key tool for actually achieving their strategy.
It really is a direct enabler. Take their first pillar, diversify and expand supply.
Right, finding new sources.
Exactly. MicroXRF lets scientists rapidly analyze not just traditional ores, but also those unconventional sources we talked about. Mine tailings, e-waste, coal ash even. It helps identify and evaluate alternative, previously untapped streams of these critical materials, finding value where we didn't see it before.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's the goal of developing alternatives, right? Finding replacements for some of these tricky materials.
Yes. And here, elemental mapping is crucial. Imagine you're trying to create a new magnet material where you substitute some of the really critical rare earths with something more abundant, maybe doping it with another element. MicroXRF allows you to quickly map the distribution of that dopant or substitute element. You can see if it went where you wanted it to, if it's uniform. This lets you rapidly screen the performance and feasibility of these new materials without needing long, expensive bulk trials for every single iteration. It speeds up innovation.
So faster R&D cycles.
Definitely. Then there's materials and manufacturing efficiency.
Okay.
Because MicroXRF is non-destructive and relatively fast, it can dramatically cut down testing cycle times in manufacturing. You can use it for quality assurance, quality control, checking if components meet spec without having to cut them up.
Better QA/QC.
Much better. And it supports advanced manufacturing R&D by providing detailed feedback on process outcomes. It just makes the whole production chain faster, more reliable, and less wasteful.
And the circular economy pillar, we touched on this, recycling and reuse, seems massive.
It's absolutely huge. To make the circular economy work, you have to know precisely what's in the materials you're trying to recycle or remanufacture.
Right. Purity is key.
Purity, distribution, everything. MicroXRF accurately evaluates the material purity and the elemental distribution in recycled components or processed e-waste. This is totally essential for figuring out how to reuse these materials effectively, getting them back into the supply chain as the highest possible value. It's about truly closing that loop.
Makes sense. You can't recycle effectively if you don't know exactly what you have.
Precisely. And finally, it supports what the DOE calls enabling activities.
Okay, what does that cover?
This is about providing the fundamental data needed for things like theoretical modeling or machine learning algorithms.
Wow, feeding the data models.
Exactly. The robust, quantitative elemental mapping data you get from MicroXRF provides ground truth. It helps build better predictive models for resource utilization, material behavior under different conditions, process optimization. It's really data-driven science at its best, giving us this unprecedented level of understanding and predictive power.
So it's clear that as demand for clean energy just keeps climbing, and technologies like MicroXRF are going to be increasingly vital, not just for the initial discovery, but all the way through deployment, manufacturing, and that crucial end-of-life recycling piece.
Absolutely. And the fact that platforms like the Atlas have this modular design is really important too.
Also, scalability.
Exactly. It means you can scale the system. You could start with a single detector set up on a benchtop for R&D in a university lab, say, but then you can expand it to multi-detector configurations for really high-throughput industrial workflows, like in a battery factory's QC lab. It's designed to grow alongside the needs of this energy transition.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. The core message seems to be that our clean energy future is incredibly material intensive.
Profoundly material intensive, yes.
And really understanding these materials down to their finest details, their composition, their structure, it all starts with being able to measure them precisely.
That's the bedrock. Precise measurement enables everything else.
So that's really the powerful takeaway here, isn't it? That tools like MicroXRF, they're giving scientists and engineers the insights they need, the ability to really see what's going on at that micro level.
Empowering them.
To understand, to optimize, and ultimately to secure the materials that we absolutely need to power the planet and make this green revolution actually happen. It's all about seeing the unseen to build that cleaner future.
Well said. And It kind of leaves you with a final thought to chew on.
Yeah.
As we get better and better at unlocking the secrets of materials at this micron scale, using this incredible level of detailed analysis,
Yeah.
how might this same kind of precision measurement transform other fields, way beyond clean energy?
Interesting. Like what?
Well, could we see similar breakthroughs in, say, forensics? Imagine tracing minute elemental signatures on evidence to solve crimes.
Ooh, okay.
Or maybe in medicine, developing new biocompatible materials for implants, or understanding disease processes by mapping elements within cells,
Right, at the cellular level.
or even just in the materials we use every day, making them stronger, lighter, more durable, more sustainable, because we understand their microstructure so much better. What other new frontiers could this deep dive into the microscopic world really unveil for all of us?
That's a great question to end on. Lots to think about there.